what happened. Once again, the rumor of games coming from one console going to another have begun again, and this time it's Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush showing up possibly on the Switch and PlayStation. It's best to remember a couple things. The first is that in 2022, Hi-Fi Rush was rated for the Australian system, and that was reported. The other is that Sea of Thieves has now been out since 2018. While this isn't the same as a day and date with a new Gears game, for instance, some people are not happy about it, and I want to talk about that. First up, ignoring the inevitable gut-wrenching idea that gamers consistently have whenever a title goes to another platform, from Xbox games to PC, from Sony first-party titles to PC and others. Here, to me, this makes sense, especially as some of these titles perhaps go 1 or 2 years on a console as exclusive, maybe even Game Pass, and then, depending again on the title, can move to another console to buffer the play numbers. While no numbers actually support this, it does seem that by 1 to 2 years down the road, most titles aren't defining a console sales anyway, as new titles are coming out, so moving to different platforms makes sense. This brings us to the more in-depth discussion about consoles and libraries. Is it the library's past that matters, or what's new and pushing the platform? It's obviously both, but we also see this when a new console releases where there's no library, though luckily we've had backwards compatibility in the past, but it does point out that the conversation is a little bit more nuanced. In some form on the main home console, when it comes to the competitors, especially switching between the two, this brings up a very heated discussion. While Microsoft has been pretty clear about Game Pass not coming to other platforms, this kind of rollout makes sense to me personally. As I said, Sea of Thieves and other service games like that could grow their user base and still get exclusive time on whatever respective console it is. A great deal has changed prior to and after the FTC documents leaked, as well as Insomniac's hacks, showing that a lot of these companies are having problems behind the scenes. Both documents have shown that the console manufacturers are also looking at the entire gaming industry and are trying to make moves to continue profitability. Sony had 12 service games planned, and of that, 6 are delayed, and I was informed that one of those has been completely gutted of anything remotely looking like a service game, or is in the process of doing so. But it shows that these companies aim on different ways to adjust within the industry, and it offers new opportunities, or those that they aimed for in the past that didn't pan out. I think that's fine. It's best to remember that this doesn't mean every exclusive, or even more than a couple, but instead currently looks to be Microsoft doing what some other companies have started to do, trying to make sure money is made on the tail end. And honestly, I think I support that, because I would love to see the devs get more cash for any of these slightly older games. Speaking of Xbox Direct was announced for January 18th, and it's going to include Indiana Jones, Avowed, Hellblade 2, and History Untold. Now, Microsoft announced that on the 18th of January, they're going to be doing this. It's their newest Xbox Direct. It's going to beam itself into your people's brains, whether you're sitting at home watching on Twitch or a bunch of us YouTubers doing videos later. First up is Indiana Jones. As I discussed last year on the podcast, it was planned to have this released in 2022, but then was delayed until 2024. Machine Games is the maker of this one, and I hope that it offers some sense of the action that Tomb Raiders and Uncharted have done for so long. But of course, this is the great granddaddy of these titles, making it offer a truly unique feel and return back to the big budget, big B-movie grand adventures. I'm excited for that. And we need it. With Nate in Uncharted consistently old man whining us through the last game, and Lost Legacy being excellent, but not really hearing much about that series or those two characters, and Tomb Raider pretty much in stealth mode, Indiana Jones has a great chance to be alone in that space, and I think it can be needed, especially to reintroduce that character to gamers or introduce them for the first time for newer gamers. Next up, Hellblade 2 is going to be shown here. Hellblade 2 looks excellent already. It's got bits of gameplay intermixed with cutscenes we've seen before and story moments. Hellblade was incredible. Hellblade 2 seems to just absolutely nail that same cinematic feel as the original, but also, according to rumors, Microsoft and the developer are making sure that this is a more fully fleshed out game, and rumors are about 3 to 5 times as much voiceover hours as the original game had. This is a title that to me is fascinating. It's a different style of title, and I think it fits with offerings from Microsoft of doing things just slightly different. Hellblade 1 was incredible. Can't wait to see Hellblade 2. Next up, they said they're going to be showing Avowed, and they got a couple trailers here and there, but Obsidian's little Skyrim brother hasn't really been hugely shown. There's some consistent fanfare here and there at Microsoft different events, but as their other premier RPG maker, I'm excited for this. Many gamers, this is the best thing about Avowed too, is that it doesn't seem to be going for the massive open world of something like Skyrim, but something a little bit more contained. Seeing this finally is going to be a nice breath of fresh air for most gamers who are tired of waiting for content and then just seeing a short trailer instead. Microsoft and Obsidian have the opportunity here to blast out an amazing gameplay breakdown for the game, and the Direct seems to be a perfect place for that. I think Avowed needs to be shown here, and I'm excited to finally see it. Last up at the Direct is Aura History Untold. This is going back a bit compared to other titles, at least when it comes to the over-the-top presentation we've seen in other games. This is a turn-based strategy game, grand strategy, and of course its closest competitor is pretty much Civilizations. Microsoft has seen great success with Age of Empires and that series while not overlapping with this real-time grand strategy game that we've seen in Civilizations. This will be one of the first times. It's a game that seems to mix a little bit of SimCity, Age of Empires, and Civilization, and I think that's what a lot of fans are actually looking forward to, and hopefully at the Direct we get to dive in. Before I dive into a different bit of news, I do want to point out that while Microsoft has stated this Direct is for these specific games, I'm hoping for at least one small drop of data or a surprise I've heard is coming. With a captive audience, I think that perfectly makes sense. Suicide Squad and good and bad impressions. Kill the Justice League was played by a number of outlets this week, and responses and thoughts were pretty much all over the place. Less negative than I'd actually expected, to be honest, with Game Informer coming out of the preview saying their opinions were much better than they had originally thought. IGN stating they left with a worst impression, which seems weird, as their initial articles sort of sounded like Suicide Squad had some kind of aerial VD they were spraying anybody who wanted to like it with. Eurogamer seemed to come out of it right in the middle, mimicking everyone else's idea that the story is actually very good, as are some of the voices and the story elements and plot, but the game might be hitting a bit too close to the same trend we've seen in superhero movies lately. I was also happy to listen and read that, for the most part, everybody liked the movement. It's improved from, say, Gotham Knights. There are some issues here and there, but what I heard, not bad. We know this is going to be a service game. We know the Suicide Squad's been delayed due to problematic issues in the development and how they wanted to handle the grind and the prep. Another thing I found interesting is that most of the players felt the characters were different enough and didn't really fit the tank, healer, DPS kind of style. Whether that works out in the long run, I'm not sure. But personally, I adore the idea of this, where you don't feel like every single run you need to make sure you have specific characters. Instead, it would be more about their skills and possibly player flexibility. While it's easy to hate even the very idea of a game, I love checking out games, even the bad ones. With Redfall, Gollum, and others behind me, my ability to play some serious shit is still up there. But there is fun to be had in a lot of these titles, and personally, I want to see what they're trying to do with this game, even if I don't like it. It feels like in the end the game is going to go up against maybe Gotham Knights and possibly Anthem when it comes to how it's treated. That could be unfortunate, but it sort of makes logical sense when you look at what people are expecting from service games, and additionally, the Arkham past titles and just how loved they were. It's going to be a hard battle for them. Twitch is laying off 500 employees. Now, hot on the heels of Twitch trying to figure out if they know the difference between underboob and cleavage and what is okay, they've also decided to drop staff by 35%, which roughly ends up being 500 employees. I don't have much more to say about this other than it's incredibly sad that they had to do that. Twitch has been all over the place in their ideas, their rule setting, just their different goals, and they've been very unclear to not only the people who are watching, but the actual creators who work on Twitch itself and upload their content. Especially when you look at Kick and YouTube stealing content creators all the time, or paying them more, or just not confusing them totally so they end up switching. I think Twitch really needs to figure out exactly what their focus is moving forward. It reminds me a little bit about all the discussions we heard about Discord and their problems deciding where they wanted to focus as a game company or as a business company. And while they've solidified the idea that they're business, a lot of us remember the Discord store for games, right? Well, maybe two of us remember. And Twitch used to be focused on one thing, but it seems like they really don't understand or identify with any real one particular way of moving forward. And I think that's hurting them dramatically. Last thing I want to talk about a little bit is that Steam has made updates to their AI usage in games. They've released some data and said that they're going to start checking games for AI more closely. They have some systems. They have some self-reporting from the developers. I love all the ideas of those. However, as AI gets better, and bear with me here, but you've got better music, you've got better audio, better texture work, it's going to be quite difficult for companies to sort of identify with what they're making. Is this slightly touched up by AI, which there's no real issue with that. And especially audio systems, for instance, have started to use AI to clean up audio. What do you have to claim and when do you have to claim it? The reason why I bring this up is I get the worry and I understand the desire to control things, but some of the way Steam is doing this is a little bit bothersome. In particular, this kind of stuff revolving around music is short-sighted. Even the most prolific producers use beat makers, and some of the new ones use AI, as I said before. These are for the creators themselves, the people who are actually creating the music and would be able to patent it, saying it's theirs. How is AI going to figure out if the music track is AI-driven, especially as they get better and better? But my real worry is that real creators get caught up in real and artificial reporting and lose out on initial sales, because players are going to be able to actually report games they suspect are using AI. It's not ignoring the worry of AI or asset flipping, as I've stated before. I do worry about those things, or all sorts of the negative misuses. But we're looking at a situation where it's flatly going to be misused when it comes to the reporting side. And we've seen it many times in all sorts of elements, especially when you look at Steam reviews. I wish Steam would figure out a better way of handling this, but unfortunately, honestly, I think it's a situation where this is going to be a problem for the next couple years as everybody comes to grips with how AI is used, and is it really used for is very basic creation completely. And if it is, we have to start looking at titles like Ubisoft's Legion, where they used AI for a number of the different things that they did within that title, and their adjustment of voices and changing those, especially when they used learning models. Is that acceptable anymore? Is it not? And who gets to decide? We'll just have to see. But the idea of a reporting system, especially when we don't know exactly how that will affect those developers, is a little bit nerve-wracking to me. So anyway, that's it for me. Peace out. Check out more of these What Happened videos, and it got more previews and reviews coming up soon. Join the Patreon. Game Gang.